I'm Erwin with Clarksville Now, and my guest is joining me, Mr. Tim Tohill, and he's with the Sexual Assault Center in Nashville. And we're going to be talking about some exciting things coming up for Clarksville, even though we're mentioning Nashville. But first off, Tim, tell me a little bit about the Sexual Assault Center.
Well, Lee, the Sexual Assault Center started in 1978. We do two things. We work to support survivors of sexual assault, helping them heal, and we work to end sexual violence. So all of the services and the programs that we have do one of those two things.
Now, I understand you have a mission, so tell me a little bit about your mission.
Well, what I'm describing is that mission, trying to accomplish those two things. And to help you understand a little bit on the counseling side of what we do, we have therapists that are very specifically trained. And usually when I explain this, I talk about a medical model because people are familiar with that. If you've got something that feels wrong about yourself, you might go to your doctor. If the doctor decides that your heart is a problem, you're probably going to go to a heart specialist. Well, in the counseling field, if sexual assault is what you're dealing with, we are the specialist. Anybody that comes to us for help, they're coming because they've been impacted by sexual assault. We work with children, we work with adults, we work with rape victims, male, female. The common denominator is someone has been impacted by sexual assault.
Now tell me a little bit about, apparently you had mentioned earlier there used to be a sexual assault center in Clarksville, I assume as sort of a satellite of Nashville, but now there are plans for another one. We'll talk about that in a moment, but first off, tell me about the history of the center in Clarksville.
Well, back in 1991, the state of Tennessee came to us and said that in particular there were a lot of children that were being sexually assaulted and they didn't have the help they needed. They liked what we were doing in the Nashville area, and so they provided some funding, and the center opened up a satellite here in Clarksville. And we operated that until 2010, and because of financial issues we were forced to close. So we haven't been here for the last 5 years, but had a very long history of providing support. At the pinnacle of us being here, we had 3 full-time therapists and a support staff person. We were providing support to over 100 survivors each year.
Now, before we talk about you coming back, we have some folks to mention. State Representative Joe Pitts and his wife Cynthia Pitts, and I understand that they have been very instrumental in helping to bring this center, the work of bringing this center back to Clarksville, right?
Oh, they just phenomenal people. I am so impressed with both of them. I first met them. They came to our center in Nashville to visit, to see what we were doing, and to find out if it was possible for us to move back to Clarksville. They liked what they saw, felt like we needed to be here, and they have opened so many doors to make this possible. They helped us find the funding necessary to move back. They have connected us with so many different people in this community and just worked tirelessly to make this happen. And so excited that we're going to be here, and hopefully by September 1st we'll be up and running and being able to provide the services that are needed here.
Well, now, Tim, I don't want to put you on the spot, but tell us a little bit about, say, the timeline. You mentioned September 1st. Tell us about the timeline for the Center for Clarksville.
Well, that's our goal, to be operational September 1st. We are working right now, interviewing therapists, trying to get our staff in place. We're looking for a location, finalizing those plans. What happened is the funding got put in place. The Clarksville Community Foundation just announced that we received a grant that enabled us to be able to do this. We got some state funding a little earlier, so those two funding sources are going to help us get started. And we've got the money in place now to be able to do that, so we're moving full-fledged ahead to get the place opened up.
Well, now, of course, we have, everyone knows, we have Austin Peay State University here in Clarksville, and, of course, our great neighbors to the north, Fort Campbell with the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault. So tell me, how is this going to benefit, say, those two groups?
Well, Austin Peay is an example. They have been coming to Nashville. We've been hosting area colleges for the last 6 months. Most people are aware of some of the issues of rape on college campuses, and all the colleges are dealing with that. And so Austin Peay has been one of many in this area that have been meeting together through our center. the fact that we're going to be here in Clarksville now, it just gives us access much more. We've already had a couple of meetings at Austin P, and their support is just tremendous. They've also got a program where they train social workers, and we'll be working with them on that. There are just all kinds of opportunities for both of us to work together. When we talk about Fort Campbell, the military the last 5 years has done tremendous work to improve the support of sexual assault survivors within the military. And they were very instrumental also in getting us back into the Clarksville area. And we'll be working very closely with them. We've had several meetings. We want this to be the kind of thing that if somebody, either a family member or somebody within the military, if they need our services, that they can come to us for that help. So we'll be able to do that, be doing a lot of, I'm sure, a lot of training back and forth with the military and just that overall support, and looking forward to that.
Well, Tim, I guess we've talked quite a bit about the Sexual Assault Center, but tell me more about, I think people would like to find out more about the services you offer and just exactly how you help people.
Well, let me start with the children that we work with. And typically we can work with a child as young as 3 years of age. If you think about a child, most of the time when they're sexually assaulted, there's a grooming process that takes place. The children don't quite understand what has happened to them. They just know that something has happened and it doesn't feel right. With the family members, if a child is being abused within the home, it's impacting the entire home. And so part of the help that we're able to provide is providing the non-offending parents or guardians with the support they need to be able to help their child. It's just very important that everybody is working together to be able to benefit that child. And what we see a lot in a family, the father typically wants to go out and kill somebody. The mother feels so guilty that she didn't prevent it. And neither of those are very helpful to the child. And so we've got to help the family understand what's going on and be able to deal with things as we're working with the child and helping them. What I can tell you about children is that they are phenomenal at overcoming things. If they are believed and loved and supported, they're going to be able to get through this and do this very well if they've got the help that our therapists can provide in guiding them on their journey. Usually the biggest group of people that we work with, though, are adults that were abused as children. And they deal with a lot of different issues. For most, they might be middle-aged. They have figured out ways to cope with the abuse they experienced as a child. But most of the time it's not very helpful. Could be they've turned to drugs or alcohol. Eating disorders are not uncommon. You see a lot of challenges with relationships. Most are depressed. Just all kinds of issues that come about. One of the real benefits of the program that we offer is there's no timeline to it. It's not you come and you get 5 sessions and it's over. We work with people until they're at a point where they're able to live a decent life and be able to function well, to be able to do that. And so with the adult survivors, the therapy tends to be a lot longer. We also work with rape victims. Typically with a rape victim, whatever their normal life was just got completely upset and they lost total control. What we try to do is help them understand what they're going through, validating how they feel, because that's a real big issue is, you know, they don't think they should feel the way they feel or act the way they, you know, so helping them understand that, understand what the rape they've experienced has done for them. Getting them to the point where they're making good decisions again. You know, sometimes they need more therapy, more help, and it's not uncommon that they might come back at a later time and go through more. But that kind of gives you an idea of, you know, the kind of services that we're able to provide. Part of the message we want to get out for anybody that has been a victim of sexual assault is there is help available. We hear quite often that people just think this is the way it's got to be, that they can't do anything about it, and they really can. if they get good help, working with somebody that really knows what they're doing and using the techniques that have been proven to be helpful to sexual assault survivors, it is remarkable the progress that people can make.
Now, Tim, you mentioned working together. One more question I have. I'm assuming now that you'll be working closely with the Clarksville Police Department as well as the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, right?
We work with the police, the sheriff, the district attorney, all of those components that are involved. And, our preference would be that anybody that's raping anyone, sexually assaulting children, that we get them off the streets. Those are choices, though, that the survivor needs to be involved in making. Do they want to participate? And so we work very closely with the police, the sheriff's office, in any of the investigation that takes place. And our role quite often is to be the advocate for the survivor, to help them, and in particular to help them understand the choices that they get, because rape victims, just losing control is a huge issue. And so if you give that control back to them, it helps immensely. So we don't want them to then get caught up in a system where they again feel like they have no control over what's happening.
Well, Tim, I want to say thank you again for being on Clarksville Now, and we are very pleased and welcome the Sexual Assault Center in Nashville back to Clarksville, and we know you're going to do some great work here, but thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us on. Looking forward to it.
And I'm Lee Erwin on ClarksvilleNow.com.